Hello, and welcome to the CPM webinar series. Today's topic is Extruder Control Systems, Upgrades for Modern Manufacturing. My name is Christian Davis, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. With locations around the world, CPM is a leading global supplier of twin screw extruders, extrusion systems, high-performance replacement parts, ring extruders, thermal equipment, and supporting services. Our webinars are intended to service, support, and inform you about the latest technologies, maintenance methods, and trends in the industry. Presenting today's webinar is Evan Pouts and Derek Lucas. Their work has been closely tied to co-rotating twin screw extrusion systems, where they support the development and implementation of advanced control strategies. They specialize in data-driven process monitoring and diagnostics, helping customers improve reliability, reduce downtime, and transition toward Industry 4.0 ready operations. At CPM, both work directly with customers to support control system upgrades, recipe management, and process optimization initiatives across both single-line and multi-line platforms. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the questions field. If it's not answered, you'll receive a follow-up response by email. Evan and Derek, I'll now turn it over to you.
Thanks, Christian. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Evan Pouts, and I'd like to briefly walk through what we'll be covering in this webinar. We'll begin with a quick introduction to CPM, who we are, and what we stand for. Next, we'll dive into the challenges posed by legacy control systems, including a real-world case study where proprietary hardware brought production to a standstill. We'll highlight key lessons learned and share practical strategies that help extrusion facilities avoid costly downtime. From there, we'll shift gears and explore modern control solutions, showcasing the range of offerings CPM provides and the benefits they bring to your operations. To kick things off, I'll hand it over to my colleague Derek, who will tell you more about us.
Thanks, Evan, and hello, everyone. As you see on the map, we've got our CPM as a company has a strong global presence with locations on 4 different continents. If you're unfamiliar with CPM as a company, we're founded in 1883 in San Francisco. While not named CPM at the time, we were later rebranded. Throughout the 1900s, we mainly focused on the feed industry, but as we move into the 2000s, we expanded to extrusion, but not simply limited to that, which we'll be talking to you about today. I'll hand you back to Evan so we can talk to you about older systems.
Thanks, Derek. So let's talk about some of the common pain points we see with older control systems, especially in extrusion environments. First up, downtime. Legacy systems often suffer from messy panels and poor wire management, which can make troubleshooting a nightmare. Then there's the issue of drawing mismatches. Drawings are often outdated or hand-drawn, and they don't account for years of field modifications. You'll find multiple HMIs, PLCs, and vendor-specific hardware stitched together with little standardization. That fragmented experience means operators and technicians have to learn several systems just to perform basic tasks, slowing down training and increasing the risk of errors. And finally, limited visibility and control. Many facilities run extruders, feeders, pelletizers, and downstream equipment on separate controllers, and there's no centralized view of system health. Startup becomes a manual, tribal knowledge-driven process, which can be different every time, depending on who's running it. Now we will explore a real-world example that highlights why we prioritize maintainability and availability in every system. Because when things go wrong, you want solutions, not scavenger hunts. So this case study looks at a 10-year-old system that suddenly failed. Basic troubleshooting didn't help, and the issue pointed to a proprietary HMI terminal that was no longer supported and next to impossible to replace. The original developer had retired, and the hardware was obsolete. No documentation, no backups, and no path forward. Production stopped and downtime stretched on while the team scrambled for a solution. CPM eventually was able to track down the original developer and find a replacement part on eBay for a rather hefty premium. After a lot of effort, the line was restored, but it came with a heavy cost of time, money, and stress. It worked out this time, but next time, that part might not exist and that person might not answer the phone. We believe recovery shouldn't depend on luck or tribal knowledge. The next person who walks up to the panel should be able to understand the system and get it running without a scavenger hunt. So what's the key takeaway from this case study? It's simple. Design with the future in mind. We use platforms that have stood the test of time and have decades of support history and are backed by global supply chains. It's like choosing a phone with a charger you can find anywhere versus one that needs a special cable from 2012. So we've seen what can go wrong when systems aren't built with longevity in mind and how CPM's approach can help avoid these pitfalls. But now I'd like to let my colleague Derek talk about what modernization actually looks like.
Thanks, Evan. So we got two different pathways we can go down. Unified single line control, and then you have your multi-line SCADA. So single line, you can either just do something with the extruder on its own, or we can bring in upstream and downstream equipment to give you more control. And then moving into the SCADA systems, that opens up the possibilities to control more than one line at a time in a more centralized system. Plus, you have more integration and data options with that, which we'll dive into the unified single line now. So, Evan, you can do the next slide. With the features that we deploy, you can see faster startup with fewer errors, leading to improved uptime, which is our ultimate goal. With the consistency deployed in the system, you'll have an easier time training operators, new and old, to get into the system and get what they need done. On top of the improved diagnostics, we also have remote troubleshooting capabilities and support. Maybe we'll go next slide for features. All right, so a couple things we've put into place. One button start. So we've deployed a system that gives you individual auto or manual control over each piece of an equipment. If you'll see in the top bottom right of that picture there, we have auto HOA, which there's buttons that allow you to select or choose if that actually shifts into auto. But with everything in auto, or you have the capability with everything in auto to hit a single button, and that will start your water pump that then progresses into heating up the barrels, moving through your soak time, and progressing through each of those steps to get you up and running. That's best deployed with our recipe control, which you can navigate and select which set points you want in there depending on your particular needs for that particular run. A couple of things we've put in place to keep you up and running. Preventative maintenance. So you have the option to either work through time on each individual equipment that you want to perform maintenance on and with notifications, or you do have the option to shut down that piece of equipment based upon that as well. But that control is given back to your team. Advanced IO diagnostics, we have the ability to actually look at raw values, individual IO points. So you can go back and look through and find what's preventing you from running or any bit of information you're looking for there. And then it's just try to put it in a form factor that's easy to read, navigate, and work through. Which will show a lot of this stuff in the next slide, or the next, we've got an HMI demonstration coming up that I'll kind of walk you through some of these features and just kind of go through those things.
So yeah, in this demonstration, we'll get to see how EdgeX handles one button start, recipe control, and preventative maintenance, and some other things that Derek was describing there. So yeah, get this video started.
This demonstration provides an overview of key HMI features and workflows. The main menu offers structured access to all system areas, enabling efficient operation. Automated startup is initiated via single command with HOA logic managing transitions. Alarms are prominently displayed and can be acknowledged directly from the interface. Recipe management enables consistent operation by applying predefined process parameters. The Trend Viewer enables monitoring of process variables over time for performance analysis. Preventative maintenance features provide early warnings based on runtime and usage data. The HMI is customizable to your process needs.
Okay. So now that we've seen what a single line extrusion control can do, let's talk about scaling that power across your entire facility. Our unified multi-line SCADA gives you plant-wide visibility and control without sacrificing the simplicity and reliability of our single line platform, but adding several Industry 4.0 features, such as the ability to exchange production data and recipe with higher level systems, such as ERP or MES. We've added a lot of features that solve real problems, such as lot tracking and feeder changeover planning, which helps with traceability, knowing what material was used, when it changed, and where it went. Audit logging records every action and alarm and set point change. Tolerance metrics flag quality issues before they become real problems, and advanced recipe scheduling keeps production flowing and material changeovers accurate. We'll show an example of what that would look like here in a minute. And as you can see from the screenshot on the right, the interfaces are clean, so operators have all the relevant information they need without digging through menus. Now we can see an example of what an operator would see after they download a new recipe, but need to change out the base resin currently in feeder 7 for an additive. And that's that little screenshot in the lower left. Behind that is a glimpse of our scheduling interface, which allows for supervisors or ERP MES systems to stage runs of various orders. And then the operators can see for the day what recipes they need to run on that line and how much of each recipe they need to run. Together, these features create a streamlined, intelligent, and future-ready extrusion environment. And next, Derek will talk about some of the strategies for upgrading your existing extruder.
Yeah, pretty straightforward here. So 2 different options for you. We have a retrofit panel and a new panel upgrade. So retrofit, take what you have and use what we can. This can be as little as the enclosure to everything but the actual PLC and HMI. This more focused on cost efficiency, and you're preserving as much hardware as possible. Think of it like think about it like a brain transplant while keeping the body intact. The other option, which is generally more ideal, but is a complete overhaul or a new panel upgrade. This allows us to design it for your particular needs, not only today, but tomorrow, even if you're not ready for those next steps. We can always keep that in mind while building it through there. Another key thing with the new panel is we are a UL shop, so we build them build our panels to those standards. What we do, yeah. So, and I'll hand it back over to Evan for a protocol discussion.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some protocols. So we have a long history of communicating with many different devices and protocols, be it more modern network-based protocols like Ethernet IP or Profinet. And we also can talk to more legacy standards such as Modbus and serial-based communications. So no matter what existing equipment you have already or plan to get in the future, we can talk to it. Next, we'll talk about some of the trusted partners we often integrate with.
Pretty straightforward here. Just some examples, and I'll point out a few. So PLC, you have Allen Bradley, Siemens, HMI. Our main focus is ignition. A couple enclosures in there, a couple other different things like main drives that we interact with quite often, some feeders and whatnot. If we do get into the SCADA systems or need servers, HP, still the Dell and whatnot there. But progressing on to not just our trusted technology partners, we also have some external vendor integration capabilities that we'd like to showcase. So here we have on the right, you'll see 2 different examples. One being the top one being a downstream system, and the bottom is a upstream. So 2 different approaches. The top one was actually still built on the control of the external vendor. We just brought their screens into ours and rebuilt them there. Benefit for this particular project was that if you were using that external vendor screens, you only got half of that screen at a time based upon size. With our larger size, we're able to bring that and give you an entire view of that process. Bottom one, big thing really there was we actually took control over this external vendor's equipment, and brought that control to a more local point to the actual line as opposed to walking across the building to gain individual control over it. So we've kind of gone through all of the options. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah.
And kind of just pulling everything together. With what we put together, we can simplify your operations from either data management to, just simplifying your control with one button, one press button, and to move. We have capabilities to get more data, which leads to better decision making on your team's side. And of course, we have scalable upgrade paths. Next slide will give you basically a point of contact for anyone that's interested.
All right, well, thank you, Evan and Derek, and to everyone who joined us. A recording of this webinar will be available on 1cpm.com within the next week or two, where you can also find all of our previous editions as well. This concludes today's webinar. If you have any questions or would like more information on what CPM can do for you, please email us at extrusion.sales@cpm.net. Thank you.